And here we go with another rocking episode of The Take, everyone's favourite cinematic treat. Take 2 has also landed, but Take 1 is here. Mark is wearing a promotional T-shirt for his band, which in the old days would have been disallowed. I remember being asked to take off a West Wing T-shirt on the day of the American election.
Really?
Yes, because this is in BBC days, because we'd be viewed on webcam. You know your T-shirt which just has a list of people in the band. This was just a list of the characters in the West Wing, and it was considered to indicate bias, and so therefore I had to put a jumper on.
The bias being that if you like West Wing,
you're clearly not a Republican. I mean, to be honest, it seems a weird thing to say when you're covering, a UK radio station. But anyway, so it doesn't matter because that says the Dodge Brothers. Not only that, it looks like a new Dodge Brothers T-shirt.
No, this is actually the last of the vintage series. This is original Dodge Brothers designs were all done by Jules Baum, who designed some of the Clash album covers like Sandinista. And this is the very, very last one. Ali was just going through the stuff that we had left over, and he happened to have this. And it's a vintage moment for the.
Okay, I would make a good gift for the skiffle fan in your life, don't you think?
Which skiffle fan is that?
Well, I don't know. Just in case people have big.
Here's the best
fans.
thing. I was doing a thing at a recording studio in Soho in Showbiz Central London, and into the room walks Billy Bragg and Chris Packham. And Billy Bragg insisted that we had a photograph taken of the 3 oldest quiffs in town.
There's a song in there. You could redo The Oldest Swinger in Town, and
oh God, I've forgotten that. Who was that?
That could be a quiff supergroup, don't you think?
Yeah,
because Chris likes his music. Oh, it's Fred Wedlock.
Fred Wedlock. Yeah. So Chris Packham likes punk, doesn't he? He's a big punk fan. Billy Bragg is Billy Bragg, and I like skiffle.
And so I think that's the most quiff. That's like the Stray Cats rock on, and they become the Quiff Masters. Yeah, and that's you guys.
Can you think of a geriatric name for the Stray Cats with 3 very old people? And here's the other hilarious thing: it turned out that Chris Packham and I have the same hearing aids.
Well, okay. Well, who knew? And certainly not me.
And then Billy Bragg said, yeah, I'm the only one in this lot who doesn't have hearing loss. That's what comes of 40 years of touring on your own without a drummer.
Okay, yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Quiffmaster Central has been suggested.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Okay, so there's a supergroup as like an ambition thing. So you've done the that thing you did with the 3, not the 4.
Yes.
So this is your project for next year.
Yeah, that'd be very good. Me, Chris Packham, Billy Bragg, the superannuated cats.
Yeah, you've already got the photographs. So everything else you just need to get together and make some music somehow.
Fantastic.
So later on in this here episode of the show, Mark will be talking animatedly about these films.
Well, we have a very interesting run of films in this week's show. We have Eternity, which is the new A24 comedy, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and I know that you've been waiting on that since Five Nights at Freddy's 1.
Oh, yeah, very much.
It Was Just an Accident, which is a new film by Jafar Panahi, and Jay Kelly is now coming to Netflix. You did the interview with Noel Baumbach last week, and I said we'd review it this week. And we have a very special guest on this week's show.
Legendary director James L. Brooks talking about his new film, Ella McCay, which Mark will review on next week's show. And may we all get, it's an interesting conversation, but may we all be as bright and lively and interesting at 85 as James L. Brooks. We had a rule when I was doing Five Live, someone suggested a guest, if they were over 80, it would be unlikely that they get on.
Really?
But, yeah. Because in general, it was like a 25-minute live radio interview on the basis of quite a lot of experience. A lot of 80 plus didn't make it, but James L. Brooks is absolutely on it, and you can hear his conversation a bit later on. What are you going to be talking about in our sub pod? When I say sub, I mean subscriber. So sub isn't going to work anymore.
Not our sub-dom pod.
No, our subscriber pod, take 2. Mark.
A review of a very interesting documentary from the maker of Bunch of Amateurs, Still Pushing Pineapples. If you've ever wondered what happened to the people that brought you Agadoo, this will tell you.
Okay. All right. That's coming up in take 2. Plus all the extra stuff, including details of all the best and worst films on television over the weekend. Further discussion on Adam Sandler's best dramatic roles in One Frame Back. I think for that, when we get there, we should just say, okay, there's Punch Drunk Love and then.
Yes,
I think,
everything else.
And then there's everything else. So I think we should probably do that. And questions, including this question, what was the biggest cinematic out loud gasping, what the actual moment that you've ever witnessed? Interesting. You can get access to that over at Patreon. Correspondence at Kermode.com. That's where you need to send your correspondence. Paul Larkin. Hello to Spurs and Argo. Long-time listener, third-time emailer. I write to ask a question. From my many years of listening, I always like the references to Showbiz North London, which conjures up images of everything from On the Buses to Carry On films. Indeed, I'd always took Mr. Mayo as a lifetime resident of said place. Imagine my surprise then when I'm watching late night BBC Two that Mr. Mayo's Top of the Pops debut, he described himself as coming from Nottinghamshire. Clarification required, please. Well, that opening, if that's indeed what was on, I was introducing, I think, the Pet Shop Boys, and it was just like a walk-on appearance in which I forgot to look at the camera.
Excellent.
So therefore, not particularly fantastic. But also, I was on Radio Nottingham at the time, and I was living in Nottinghamshire. I was living in Nottingham, so that's why it may well have been.
But as soon as you got the Top of the Pops gig, you immediately relocated to Showbiz North London, because that's how it works. You go on Top of the Pops, they give you a house in North London.
Yeah, would that be so? I remember getting the tube back from Top of the Pops, and the good lady ceramicist, her indoors, saying, if only that they all, obviously, if you present Top of the Pops, you are big, shiny, spangly, and showbiz. If only they knew you got 75 quid. And that's it. So it was, and I did that plus one other show for which I think I got 400 quid. So
did it come out of the Horseshoe in White City?
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. They were the old days. But anyway, Paul says not so showbiz Guernsey. Anyway, so at the time when I started on Radio 1, I was working for Radio Nottingham and lived in Nottingham, hence the Knots reference. Matthew Kershaw in Mill Hill. Dear Doctor's Film, I'm writing to you with regard to your comment about pluralizing Doctor Who to Doctors Who versus Doctor Who's, which I did and you commented on.
Yeah.
It reminded me of an ongoing conversation with my daughters after we watched an episode of Peep Show in which Mark Corrigan, played by David Mitchell, refers to multiple packets of pot noodle as Pot's Noodle.
Very good.
For some reason, this got us into thinking about the Star Wars franchise. For a start, it's really only one war across multiple stars, so it should really be Stars War. The problem with Stars War, it sounds as though Peter or Alexander may be part of the Stars War family. So anyway, but also within the franchise, we started discussing whether the character Jar Jar Binks should actually be Jar's Jar Bink. And once you start thinking like this, you see it everywhere. Fruits Pastel, Ford's Focus, Penguins Classic. It's become a terrible habit for me, which I hope you'll now join me in. Hello to Jason's, Isaac, and Jeremy's Iron. Yours sincerely, Matthew Kershaw. And do you know what, Matthew? I suspect that probably will become a thing. Whenever Fruits Pastel just has a certain...
fantastic.
That is the way it's going to be. Wine's gum. You go to the service station. That'll be £150 for your petrol. And can I have a packet of Wine's gum, please? No, you're an idiot. Correspondence at Kermode.com. Okay, let's check out a film that's cool and groovy that we might want to go and see.
While we're in a laughing mood, Eternity, which is a sort of a screwball comedy style romantic fantasy starring Elizabeth Olsen, Miles Teller, both of whom also get exec producer credits, and Callum Turner, who is soon to be seen in Rose of Nevada, which is the new film from Mark Jenkin, which is coming out next year, and which I've already seen, absolutely fabulous. Also features Divine Joy Randolph. So, directed by David Frayne, who co-wrote the film with, and I think this must be pronounced Pat Cunane, Cunnane, whose original script was on The Blacklist. And we say this every time. The Blacklist is this list of the best unproduced screenplays, which has become kind of the hunting ground for great new scripts. So the story is, an elderly couple are on their way to a gender reveal party, and the guy is being grumpy. He says, people die at these events, and they're quietly arguing about the fact that He likes the beach and she likes, mountaintops. They're just having one of those kind of, old couple, you're grumpy, she's sunny. We also learn that she is ill, although she says, don't tell the family yet, just let me have this. Anyway, then they get to the party, and at the party, there is a box of old pictures of the old woman, one of which is a picture of her younger, played by Elizabeth Olsen, with her very handsome first husband, played by Callum Turner, who died in the war. At which point, her current husband chokes on a pretzel, dies, wakes up in a kind of matter of life and death afterlife, now as the happiest incarnation of himself, i.e. now he's Miles Teller, because this is the period when he was happiest. Turns out he's in a holding station. This isn't heaven, it isn't hell, it isn't purgatory, it's a holding station. This is where you go, where you decide which eternity you're going to go to. If you've ever seen The Exorcist 3, it's very much like that scene in The Exorcist 3, which is a train station with trains that will take you to elsewhere. And newcomers are assigned a guide to help them decide which eternity they're going to go to. They're going to go to Beach World, they're going to go to Mountain World. There's somewhere called Smoker's World. There's lots of adverts. Smoker's World, cancer can only kill you once, can't kill you twice. And then there's also a world which is Germany before the war, 100% less Nazis now. But we're also told that once you've chosen that world, you can't change your mind. So we see somebody being dragged out shouting, "Museum World sucks, I can't look at another picture." So he goes, okay, all right, well, I'm sure that my wife would like Mountain World and she's dying, so I'll just wait here for her. Or no, maybe I'll go up and set everything up for her. He said, no, just wait here. She'll be along in a bit. And in a bit, indeed, as we knew at the beginning, she does indeed turn up and her husband is there to greet her. But so is her first husband, who has been waiting in this holding station limbo for over 60 years. And she is confronted with the two of them. Here's a clip/trailer.
Hey, sweetie. So, I know this is a lot, but don't worry. I've been doing the research.
Oh, Larry.
What do you mean, Larry?
Yeah, well, a lot has happened in a week. You died. I died. I just been reunited with both of my dead husbands.
You're exactly how I dreamt you.
Ooh. And I have to pick where to spend eternity.
My client clearly has a very difficult decision to make.
Yeah.
Now, look, I went into this deeply suspicious because, in terms of the premise, I thought, I don't know, this sounds terribly contrived. And actually, I came out of it thinking, do you remember that film, Don't Worry, Darling? That I think was one of the first films we reviewed on The New Take. And I came out of it thinking, this is what that would be like if it was actually good. It lifts riffs from a bunch of things like, Here Comes Mr. Jordan, and actually Pixar's Soul, that animation, which I think both you and I really liked. And somehow it manages to get away with it. And the reason it gets away with it is this. The script is really sharp. The jokes are proper old-fashioned screwball comedy, sort of fast-talking, wisecracking. And the performances manage to elevate what's essentially a kind of, a complex, an overly complex conceit into something that is just funny. And it's funny in a way that you go, oh, okay, no, that's really properly funny. Divine Joy Randolph, who I've always been a fan of, is just great. She's great as the cosmic guide who does that thing that I'm not allowed to do in my house. Callum Turner is really well cast as the kind of, he's perfect, he's so handsome, he's so perfect that he absolutely cannot be perfect. And there's a running joke about the fact that he died in the war. Which war? The Korean War. That's not a real war. And there's a long joke about the only thing that came out of the Korean War was MASH. And then Miles Teller, who manages to kind of get pathos and comedy into the role of this grumpy guy who slowly comes to realize that his real talent is making his wife happy. That, okay, he's not the handsomest guy, but he wants his wife to be happy. As for Elizabeth Olsen, who I've always really liked, she does a fantastic job because the whole thing's got a kind of screwball air to it. Her performance almost seems to come from a previous era. So when she's in heaven as the perfect version in the holding station as the perfect version of herself, that perfect version of herself speaks like a 40s movie star. And she's also got that kind of, 40s movie star looks because of the design of the film. It's done really, really well. And she just glows as this person who's suddenly faced with this impossible choice of the person she first loved and then the person she spent most of her life with. And her response to most of it is, oh my, how do I deal with this? It's got a very good score by David Fleming, who worked on The Last of Us, which you and I both liked. And I literally sat in the screening room. It was in Mr. Young's, well, Soho Screening Room as it is now called, which is quite a small screening room. And there was a guy 2 seats down from me who, when the first joke landed, he laughed out loud in a way that I thought, okay, this is going to be annoying. And then when the second joke landed, I laughed as loud as he did. And then I spent the rest of the film thinking I had no idea I was going to enjoy this as much as I did. So it was a real surprise treat. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I liked the fact that it was taking riffs from all. I mean, it reminded me a little bit of that Danny Boyle film, which nobody liked at the time, but everyone has now reconsidered, which is A Life Less Ordinary. It's got a bit of that kind of screwball comedy to it. And I just thought it was really fun.
Does it end up as a kind of a menage a trois? Is that the answer?
So you're asking me to tell you what happens in the end of the film?
Okay, no, that's
Have you been hanging out with himself from that film?
No. Anyway, Don't Worry, Darling is our most popular review on our YouTube channel. Well,
it's our longest standing review. I think it's our most popular because it's been up on, has it been seen by like 3 million people or something?
10 million.
10 million people.
Yeah. 10
million people wanted to know what we thought of Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah, or what you thought of Don't Worry, Darling. Yes, that is true. 10 million people.
Wow.
That's crazy numbers, isn't it?
It's just bonkers.
Okay.
Anyway, Eternity, it's in cinemas and I enjoyed it very much.
Don't forget, all the joys of Patreon are available, as well as Take One and Take Two. You get the fortnightly extra show, which is Take Ultra, which we did last week. You can watch all of it. It's available as a video episode on Patreon or as an audio podcast on your usual fruit and non-fruit-based devices. Also, Mark then says, there's loads of other stuff for you over at Patreon, including the vote for the best Christmas film scene of Evs.
Thank you for filling that in.
Well, I just thought you probably wouldn't be there at that point. So anyway, over to Patreon, best Christmas film scene of all time. What do you think? More of which coming up. We'll be back in just a moment. Mark will now be reviewing top of page 7.
Yeah, no, I've got it. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It was just an accident, the new Jafar Panahi, and of course the review of Jay Kelly, which is coming to Netflix roundabout now.
Plus a conversation with legendary Hollywood director James L. Brooks. We'll also have the box office top 10 and the very, very excellent Laughter Lift in just a moment. So before we dive into the chart, this is your last reminder, the very, very last reminder, that the Kermode and Mayo Christmas Movie Spectacular is December 7th, this coming Sunday, Prince Edward Theatre in the West End of London. If you've delayed listening to this podcast until Monday, you've missed it.
And what a show you missed, incidentally.
Yes, and what a show it was, apparently.
Yeah.
Tip-top guests, including Jason's Isaac, wandering around a fan convention in New Orleans, or shall we say News Orleans. You see, I've now got it. And also, who else, Mark?
Well, Nia DaCosta, who is the director of The Bone Temple, which I've now seen. I'm sure I'm not allowed to review it yet, but can I give you one word?
Is it blimey? There you go. Well, that was pretty much my review of the first one. So is it? It's another blimey.
It's another blimey.
Okay, so Nia DaCosta is going to be with us. And if you fancy your chances with, apparently it's going to be a super tough quiz. New producer Dom is going to be showing off quite how brilliant he is. And when I say, because it says here Quizmaster Dom, but that feels as though that might be into pillion territory. But anyway, if you'd like to enter Simon and Mark's domain, then you need to let us know. Also, now is the time to please send in your cracker jokes for inclusion in our Laughter Lift Christmas Cracker Special, where we all have to laugh because the jokes won't have been written by Paul Simon / the redactor. So the show is this Sunday the 7th of December, 2 p.m. Head to fane.co.uk/take and grab your tickets, the last remaining tickets, which are available at very reasonable prices. Yeah. Box office top 10 at number 14, Blue Moon.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. I mean, Richard Linklater, it's funny because I said Richard Linklater is incredibly productive. He turns these films, because there's a whole other film already backing up. And then somebody sent a message in saying, productive? I think Boyhood was the longest production I've ever known a movie to take.
Catching up then. Number 10 is The Choral.
Which I thought was fine. I'm very glad that we had such nice correspondence about people's experience of seeing it on Remembrance Sunday. I thought it was fine.
Tia Ishq Mine at 9.
Yeah, this wasn't press screened. This is a Hindi language musical romantic drama, which is a spiritual sequel to Ranjana. If anyone's seen it, let us know because it wasn't press screened.
A Paw Patrol Christmas at 8.
Well, if you go to see a Paw Patrol Christmas, you know exactly what the film is. This is now in its 4th week in the top 10. And I think this falls into the category that we've talked about a lot, which is if it gets your kids used to the idea of going to the cinema, then good for it.
Predator Badlands is at number 7.
Which has sort of slightly, I mean, look, I think it's fine. I keep bumping into critics who go, yeah, we were really down on that movie. I wasn't really down on it. I
think I read it's taken more than any other Predator film.
Well, because of the certificate. Because it's a 12A certificate. There's a kind of just a simple, economic maths built into this. More people are able to go and see the film. Therefore, that's what happens. That's why you go from making 18, or as they used to be, X-rated films down to 12, because it opens up the market. I just thought that after Prey, which we enjoyed so much, both of us, that's not the royal we, that's me and you, both enjoyed so much. It was just, I thought it was ho-hum. But, as it's in that sweet spot in terms of how many people can go and see it.
So that's number 7. Nuremberg is number 6.
I mean, who knew that this was going to turn out to be Russell Crowe's best role in ages? I still can't get past walking past the poster of, Russell Crowe is, and I go, no, he isn't. But I've seen the film and he genuinely is. I think it's his best performance in a very long time.
The Running Man is at number 5.
Very faithful to the Stephen King original. I was just doing a couple of interviews about Stephen King with people who've done adaptations of his work, including the guy who made Midnight Mass, which, again, you and I sort of really enjoyed. And it is impossible not to be impressed by how accurately Stephen King foresaw the future. I mean, he was writing these books in the 1970s, and he was writing dystopian fiction that is positively Orwellian in how it anticipates the kind of the pop culture sort of celebrity propaganda of the future. And I think Edgar Wright's done a great job with this film.
Number 4 is Pillion. So here's an email from Kieran.
Yes.
Dear Sub and Dom, in last week's discussion of Pillion, Mark made the point that in sub-dom relationships like the one depicted between Harry Melling's Colin and Alexander Skarsgård's Ray, it's in fact the sub who holds the power, and these relationships require clear boundaries of consent to be set up. So are often healthier than traditional relationships. Simon disagreed, saying that the relationship he'd seen in the movie was abusive. Mm-hmm. Having watched the film over the weekend, I'd argue that you're both right. Ray takes advantage of Colin's naivety. He does not give him the opportunity to set up. By the way, I thought we were both, I didn't think we would kind of disagree.
No, I don't think we were.
You were just more comfortable with it. Anyway, he does not give him the opportunity to set up boundaries at the beginning of the relationship and is dismissive of Colin's later attempts to initiate such conversations. For me, a key sequence was when they go to the countryside with a few other dom-sub couples. Here we see glimpses of the other doms showing affection for their subs in a way that Colin never receives from Ray. Colin begins to see that there is a more healthy way for this kind of relationship to be maintained, and the events of the final act show that Pillion is a story about learning to communicate and set boundaries. Overall, I thought writer-director Harry Lighton did a brilliant balancing act of shining a light on a subculture not often seen on screen in a generally sympathetic way, whilst also showing how such a relationship can fall into trouble if there isn't proper communication, as can happen with any relationship. It's also an incredibly funny comedy. I have to say I found Simon's attitude on the podcast to be unfairly prudish and dismissive, as once you can get past the fact on the surface Colin and Ray's is a very different kind of relationship to what you might be familiar with, then there's plenty in Pillion for everyone to relate to. Tinkety tonk and see you behind Primark at 5 p.m. That's Kieran. Well, I think, prude is an interesting word. It's inherently dismissive, obviously, meaning excessively prim or a demure woman. So its origins are somewhat suspect as a word. My basic position was that Colin's mother was right across the table, because if you imagine that Colin's character was a young woman as opposed to a young man, it feels like it's a relationship where coercive control is taking place. And you said last week, as I remember, Adam Mars-Jones you'd had a conversation with, and it's based on his book. And in the book, the relationship is even more cruel. So therefore, it is a cruel relationship. So I think what I was reacting to was that. And that is, and when you see, and there'll be many people listening to this who have friends who have got into coercive control relationships, or they have children or friends of the family where a relationship has clearly been suffering from coercive control. And then you have to speak up and speak out, exactly as Colin's mother does. And because of that unhealthiness, I think that's why I reacted the way that I did.
Yeah, I think there's two things to say here. The first thing, I don't think for 1 minute you were being prudish, because I think one of the reasons that Pillion is interesting is that in terms of the way in which the BDSM relationship is portrayed, one part of that relationship is familiar with the ground and has clearly been doing this for a while. And the other partner has not yet figured out whether or not this is actually what they want. And I think that's exactly what gives the film that sense of uncomfortableness. And I think one cannot dismiss it, and one's not meant to dismiss it. The point about the film is, it is a discussion about how one arrives at a point of consent. Now, by the very end of the film, and by the end of the film, I mean the very, very end of the film, that point of consent may have been arrived at. But up until that point, it hasn't. And I think if you don't feel uncomfortable, you are missing a key part of the drama, which is it is about, hang on, until you have an equal partnership in which both people involved in this relationship are on exactly the same page, it is uncomfortable. And that's why the mother says, I think you're a C word. Mm-hmm. And I think that's perfectly fair. I don't think for 1 minute that you're being prudish. I think, to be honest, you are incredibly open-minded, because in the course of this job, which I kind of forced you into by the fact that, you were working in pop music and I was working in film, and then we ended up doing a film show, you've seen a staggering array of movies, which I think you probably, wouldn't immediately have chosen to pile into the cinema. Yes. And you've always gone in with an open mind. So I don't think you're a prude at all.
I think it's also interesting that the very word prude is sexist.
Yes, I didn't know that, but that makes perfect sense. So the definition of prude is
excessively prim or demure woman. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the meanings change, sure. So, hey, that was it in origin. Anyway, number three, Now You See Me, Now You Don't.
Wish you hadn't.
Number two, Zootropolis 2. Yeah. Dear Sub and Dom, says James McIrvin from the urologist's urinario, and also many others. I love that Mark thinks the fox in Zootropolis is voiced by Patrick Bateman. I agree. If that were the case, it would definitely make it more commercial and therefore more satisfying. You said Patrick Bateman rather than Jason Bateman.
Oh no! Oh my! Did I say that?
I didn't know. No one noticed here at this end.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great if American Psycho met Zootropolis 2?
Oh wow! I'm so sorry. Okay, well that is a classic Kermode slip. I'm really, really sorry, but you're right. With Patrick Bateman doing the voice, that would have been fantastic.
James and many others, thank you very much.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm doing this more as I get older. But then again, I do think, American Psycho meets Zootropolis would be a film I would pay to see.
And number one all over the world, Wicked for Good. Emma Wilkin says, Dear Cynthia and Ariana, I went to see The Wicked for Good at the amazing Abbey Gate Cinema in Bury St Edmunds. I've seen the stage show, but I'm nowhere near as enthusiastic about it as some people. So I was a bit concerned that the lack of a defying gravity like banger would mean it wasn't that enjoyable. For that reason, I was surprised to find myself having a full-on ugly cry more than once during the film. Maybe it hit different because I was a bit hungover. There you go, what you bring to it. Or because I was watching it with my best friend who I don't see that often. But the depiction of Elphaba and Glinda's friendship, female friendship being something you don't see all that often in cinema, got me right in the feels. I'm looking forward to watching both films back to back with my best pal Sarah the next time kids, dogs, distance, and life in general allows. Thank you, Emma. Peter J. Matthews, audiobook narrator and 1,500-meter swimming certificate. Behind all the marketing, merchandise, and the gravity-defying music, it is a story that centers around a manipulative, egocentric, lying fraudster who has hoodwinked a nation into believing in his wonderfulness. Watch the original 1937 film first, as we did the night before, and you might be just as bewitched as the residents of Oz are into believing the Wicked Witch is genuinely wicked and that the wizard is truly wonderful. Hell, his slogan could even be MOGA, make Oz great again. I think you see where I'm going here. The real genius of Wicked is that it first takes us behind the curtain to show how easily people are manipulated and controlled through a diet of clever lies and concocted fears, but then eventually shows us that there is true magic in kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and ultimately love. That this colossal franchise has managed to largely avoid accusations of wokeness and being political, in inverted commas, while subtly but firmly pointing its long green finger at the current charlatan wizards of nationalism and populism cowering in their emerald bunkers and ballrooms, this is a long sentence, all the while championing diversity and inclusion in its casting, is a testament to just how incredibly good Wicked is and ultimately the power of great storytelling. Gasp for breath. Tickety tongue, up with witches and down with witch hunts, up with goats, down with scapegoats. Peter J. Matthews.
Well,
that's Wicked at number one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely on board with that comment. It's funny, one of my favourite lines in The Wizard of Oz is when Dorothy says, "You're a very bad man," and he says, "No, I'm a very good man. I'm just a very bad wizard." And then, of course, in the case of Wicked, it's like, no, he is a very bad man. And I think that Jeff Goldblum performance is terrific. And I do think all the things that you've just said about what's going on in that story are particularly poignant and true right now. And I think Make Oz Great Again is...
So what does it do that has meant that it hasn't become the target, as our correspondent Peter says? No one, as far as I can see, not that I inhabit these circles, no one is saying Wicked, it's just too woke.
Well, the comparison that I would draw would be with It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life is a film that everybody thinks about now. They love it and they think it's a Christmas staple. That was largely due to it playing on television when it became a kind of Christmas staple, because Frank Capra said he never thought it as that. But that film was investigated by the House Un-American Activities Commission. Wow. Because they decided that it was anti-bankers and pro-communist, and it would inspire dissent. Despite the fact that it was hauled up before the HUAC, nobody thinks of It's a Wonderful Life like that. And yet it is a modern parable about, decency and goodness, and about a small town being overtaken by a horrible financier who turns this place, Bedford Falls, into Pottersville. And suddenly it becomes a horrible parable about capitalism and greed. But people don't think that. They think it's a great film. And every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Why? Because it's so wrapped up. And I think the really interesting thing with the House Un-American Activities Commission is they were right. I mean, there was no reason to haul the film up before them, but all the things that they ended up concluding, you go, yeah, that is what it says. It says greed and capitalism is not a good thing. But of course, it does it in a way that's completely palatable because it's such a great film. And I think I have not seen the stage show of Wicked. I've just seen the two films, and I've been very impressed by both of them. And I love the fact that diversity and that rebelliousness and all that stuff is hardwired into the matrix of those films.
In a moment, Mark is going to be reviewing Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It was just an accident, Jay Kelly, and we'll be talking to James L. Brooks in just a moment. Okay, so just ahead of the conversation with James L. Brooks, so we should, if people need a kind of a little summary, Mark, I mean, this man is I've already mentioned he's 85 years old, and that genuinely is a point, I think, because there are, apart from Ridley Scott, there are very few people of this generation who are still out there and making interesting stuff.
Yes.
But where do we start to talk about James L. Brooks?
Well, on the one hand, there's the television work, which I'm going to leave to you because, of course, that's immense. But in terms of his film output, in terms of Endearment, as good as it gets, Spanglish, now Ella McCay, and, of course, Broadcast News. Now, in the same way that Stephen King is the author name that comes up more on this show than anyone else, Broadcast News is probably the film that we have talked about the most, probably more so than The Exorcist, My Obsession, or Amadeus Yours, because every week there's I say it here, it comes out there, he's the devil. I mean, I genuinely think to this day that Broadcast News is one of the best depictions of how broadcasting works, and I love that film. And I'm so jealous that you got to meet, because I have never met James L. Brooks.
Yeah, he's never come around. He's never come around for conversation.
He's a titan. And in terms of his television work, Simon, that includes...
Well, that would include the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which is like we're going back to our parents' generation, and the spin-offs Rhoda and Lou Grant, the sitcom Taxi, that's him, the Tracy Ullman Show, out of which came The Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
Which he's still intimately involved with on a daily basis. Which is
astonishing.
It is.
Astonishing CV.
5 Oscars, 22 Emmys. Where do you even begin to talk about James L. Brooks? Well, this is where you start, by playing you a clip from his new movie, Ella McCay.
It's a tale of the ties that bind us.
Try not to judge my husband right away. I'll try.
You nuts, lady? Are you
The people we can count on.
Would you like to hear about my favorite community health program?
God, no.
And the ones we can't.
I'd like to acknowledge past actions for which I am ashamed. This is great we're doing this.
And the surprises.
I'm resigning immediately. You're governor. Congratulations. You really couldn't have gotten this any other way.
Well, that bring it all to a boil.
Any last minute advice?
Don't take Ambien more than 3 nights in a row.
And that's a clip from Ella McCay. I am delighted to say I've been joined by its writer and director, the legendary James L. Brooks. Hello, James. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Good to be here.
It's very, very nice to see you. It's a privilege to have you on the show. Introduce us to, there's lots I want to talk about, but introduce us to your new movie.
Oh, wow. It's set in 2008 because, in the United States, it was certainly true. We still liked each other then, before our Great Division. And there's a woman who wants to fix everything that's in front of her. And she's clearly superb from out of the box. She also has an errant father and the opening scene just before titles is a family fracturing just from spontaneous combustion. Woody Harrelson plays a charming miscreant, and that sets her up because there's a bit of autobiography in just coming from family trauma, and then the way that chases you, the way you operate around it, the way you deal with it, but it's always sort of there.
So she is lieutenant governor. Can you explain what that role is in? Because our politics are obviously similar but different. So who is she?
Well, the governor is the head of a state. We have 50 states. It's a big job. You really have great authority at the state. Lieutenant governor is usually runs on the ticket. And in this case, she's lieutenant governor because she knows policy backwards and forwards. She's a real wonk. She can't stop. She has to fix things. The governor has depended on her because he's a retail politician. He gets the votes. He has the charm. She's the worker. And then he gets a cabinet position in Washington. So a Secretary of the Interior, so that she's suddenly the person behind the curtain comes into the spotlight.
So the role of Ella McCay is played by Emma Mackey.
Yes.
Can you just explain? So I admit I was getting them a bit confused when I was writing all this down. In the audition process, can you explain how Emma came into this? Because her name is so similar to the title of the movie.
You know, and everybody tells me I should correct it, that the last thing you want is to confuse people. But I was living with Ella McCay as the title of the movie for so long. And it might have been a mistake, but I kept the title the same. We were pretty far down. And then Emma Mackey shows up. And shows up after, because it's a huge part for a woman. She has to play a 16-year-old, you know, convincingly. She's you know, and I had in my mind there was this golden age of movie comedy, you know, and Katharine Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn, you know, and it was just that was the time when the spirit was when there was a spirit that I loved and I try to just pay tribute to with this picture, leaving room for the fact that she is a child of trauma and some of this stuff is pretty serious.
Yeah, but when she came into the audition, did you know straight? Because I think it was quite late in the process. She obviously did something that made you think it's definitely her.
Well,
old school charm.
No, I had been looking, and it got scary. You know, if you know, you can say if you build it, she will come, and suddenly she walks in. You're waiting for that moment. Now you're months into looking all over the place, and you haven't gotten it yet. And then I first on a Zoom, first in London, I think it was, and I saw her, and she was so right, and she did one of the monologues from the picture. And she was so touching that I didn't believe it. Too good to be true, you know. Like you know, I expected bad news, and then we did another one right away, and it's just. I mean, you need luck. You know, it's so crazy how you need a break. Sometimes the break is you don't get somebody you were after, and you find, you know, and in this case, she walked in.
It's a very American story, but with a kind of a British heart, because she is Anglo-French, and Jack Lowden is Scottish, and Jack Lowden is married to her. So we are very familiar with him over here, particularly with Slow Horses, of course. What were you looking for in Jack? Why did you get him in there?
It's a very difficult part he plays.
He's very good at it.
yeah, and he's. This always sounds so. I mean, when you say things like this, it sounds overstated. It's not overstated with him. He's a thrilling actor, and I think it's the spirit, the fact that the joy of it, the fact that the theory that it's supposed to be fun, you know, not agony to do this, and he had that spirit. And it's, you know, I'm so used to and it's right. You know, you're going to go into a scene and the actor has a discussion. Mm-hmm. This is what the scene. What do you think? What do you think? With Jack, he was off like a shot doing, you know, just out of the starting gate, and I think it was a really difficult part because you had to understand what she's doing with him, and then you have to have these few hints of maybe it's a mistake.
You've been very busy producing movies, but what was it about this project, this script, which is your script, but what was it about this that made you want to direct again, which you haven't done for 15 years?
I was working. I do The Simpsons. I love that job, but I was going nuts not writing something new, and then finally that got to me. And for a long, and the characters came. The characters came first, and then it was working out the narrative. But the characters popped up. You know, in a way, you're always trying, even though this is set in 2008, just to get away from all our current politics. You're trying to nail a contemporary heroine.
I've never felt nostalgic for 2008 before, but I came out of your movie having laughed a lot, thinking things were better then, and particularly thinking if only American politics which obviously we see a lot of here. If only American politics is like it is in your movie. When the worst, I guess from a progressive point of view, the worst thing that we could imagine was George W. Bush. And now we see Ella McCay. You go, yes, why can't it be more like that? So why is 2008 your divide?
As the narrator said, we still liked each other. And even though there was a recession on at the time, it was still all for one for all. And then the division happened, and the division is such a horrible occurrence in the United States. You know that people that were generally together and suddenly were on sides, and so this is nostalgia for when we were all one people.
So is that social media that has driven that? That would be the standard interpretation.
Yeah. Well, it's sure an echo chamber for that, and then reinforces it. Yeah.
I guess you know that it's very weird for most of us to see actual actors with Simpsons voices. So you mentioned the narrator, who is Julie Kavanaugh, who's Marge, and Albert Brooks is there, and we even, I think, get the voice of Tracy Ullman just to take it back into a.
Right.
I think she's on the phone answering machine.
That's right,
is that
that's
right?
That's right.
You must have had a lot of fun working with these people again, but to see them as actual physical actors was incredible.
Yeah, and Julie is. To see her now, she appears at the beginning. She's the narrator. She's the one who takes us by the hand, and it's so interesting when audience makes the trip. Oh my, that's Marge Simpson, and then forgets the trip and gets involved with what Julie plays in this. But the voice is magic.
Yeah. We see the Gracie Films logo, little film at the beginning. It was just fantastic to see that. And I remember you in the past saying that at Gracie Films, writers still rule. They were yours. Is that still true?
Yes.
And with people being concerned about what AI can do to a writer's career, how will you at Gracie Films try and make sure that writers continue to rule?
This is maybe foolish of me. I think there's a thing that AI can do. I think there's a picture that hits beats that other pictures have hit, that has an arc like other pictures have had. I think AI is frighteningly going to get pretty good at that because it's any film that's somewhat paint by the numbers. I think AI can do, and this is the infancy, so it's going to get crazy. But I think you can't kill it with a stick. I think the heart is still there. I think people are making personal movies. I think it might be a little more uphill than it was, but I sort of believe the dream is the dream is the dream.
I have one question which I have to ask you just because it's been a long time waiting for me to ask this question. Your debut film, Terms of Endearment, it must be the most successful debut of all time, I would think. Was that right? 5 Oscars? I can't remember. How is it that didn't mess you up? You know, because sometimes, particularly in the music world, when a lot of success comes like that, people can go off the rails. How come you're still here making great films at 85?
My first thing when it hit, I went to a grizzled expert producer who'd been around, and I said, "How many more do I get to make? Because this movie was a hit, you know." And he says, "I think 2." So that thrilled me. I mean, and I think that's what it's all about. You get to make another one, you know. And it was, part of it was surreal, and I was. And then when you get into the writing of the next one, the humility, just that's what's waiting for you at the machine, when you start another one. So and it was great because after that I was able to do research because people knew a little bit who I was. Mm-hmm. So I was able to get entree into research that I might not have gotten when I was, when nobody knew,
We had Ridley Scott on the show recently,
wow.
And he seems to be speeding up. He has so many films that he wants to make still. When I asked him, "What are you doing next?" he had like 3 or 4 things that he was working on. Is that you having done this movie? Are you going to give another one to us in like 18 months' time?
I was pretty proud of having a few notes on my next one, which I do, and you tell me he's 3 or 4 ahead. God bless him.
That just seems to be the way, he clearly wants to achieve all these things. But do you feel? It sounds to me as though you're going to keep going.
I know what I want to do next, and that's I know what I want to approach. I have notes on that.
Okay. Another Simpsons movie, maybe.
Well, I don't want to, but that's an adjacent possibility. Yes.
Okay. So you have lots on your plate. James L. Brooks, it's such a pleasure and a privilege to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much.
There you go, James L. Brooks.
I'm so jealous. I'm really, really jealous because I think, I haven't seen the new film yet. It's out next week. Is it great?
He's one. Yes. Well, it's not. It's not going to be considered with broadcast news and as good as it gets in terms of endearment. I don't think it'll win an Oscar. It's amazing. I've never felt nostalgic for 2008 before, but there is no doubt that although it's an easy line and a cheap line, it's back to when we liked each other. There is an enough element of truth in there, but I think throughout the film, you think this feels like a film. I haven't seen this kind of film for 20 years, but he knows what he's doing. And when you've got Jack Lowden and Woody Harrelson, who you heard in the clip in there, and Julie Kavanaugh as also in the clip, the voice of Marge Simpson and Albert Brooks, there's some great people in there. There's some good gags. It's a very, very enjoyable film, which you can watch with your parents, I think, because it'll be a film that they're familiar with. That it's the structure which he talked about. It's the structure which feels old-fashioned, but in a good way.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to it. I love the fact that you brought up the thing about the writers still rule. I just looked up that the quote, the full quote that I was alluding to before from Broadcast News is, "I know you care about him. I've never seen you like this about anyone. So please don't take it wrong when I tell you that I believe that Tom, while a nice guy, is the devil." And I'm sorry, I give my right arm to be able to write like that.
I thought it was also interesting that the pause that he left when I said the writers still rule, in the new AI world. And he, like everyone else, is trying to work out what the rules are and where this is going to go. But he obviously still thinks that writers still rule, and long may that be the case. But it is interesting that and confusing that Ella McCay stars Emma Mackey. And when you think, hang on, is it named after her? That was my first take. No, it's just slightly different, which is very confusing. But I think she has exactly what you want in a kind of a romcom, which is what this is. Anyway, to be reviewed next week. That's Ella McCay starring Emma Mackey and Woody Harrelson and Jack Lowden. Correspondence at kermode.com. Here is something you can review.
It Was Just an Accident, which is the latest film from Iranian auteur Jafar Panahi, whose devotion to filmmaking has seen him arrested, imprisoned, and banned from making movies in Iran. I think he was first banned in 2010, but after the ban kept making them, he co-directed This Is Not a Film, which was a film in which he kept saying, "I'm not making a film. I'm just doing something in my front room." That was smuggled out of Iran on a USB, hidden inside a cake. Premiered to great acclaim at Cannes. Closed Curtain and Taxi Tehran earned him, just Taxi as it was known in its original format, Silver and Golden Bears, respectively, at Berlin. Three Faces won Best Screenplay at Cannes. In 2022, he was detained and ordered to serve a 6-year prison sentence, but made No Bears, which picked up the Special Jury Prize at Venice and an award for cinematic bravery at Chicago. I mean, the reason I say all this is because people talk about the difficulties of making films. There's making films under difficult circumstances, and there is making films in a circumstance in which you will regularly get arrested for doing it. When he won the Precious Gem Award in Miami, he said, "I wish I could make films instead of receiving awards because I have dreams that go beyond all the awards in the world." So this, It Was Just an Accident, is his first production since being released from jail. As with so many of his films, shot without permits, co-production between Iran, France, and Luxembourg. Premiered in Cannes, where it won the Palme d'Or. And true to form, when Panahi won the Palme d'Or, in his speech, he said, "How can I rejoice? How can I be free while in Iran there are still so many of the greatest directors and actresses of Iranian cinema who, because they participated in and supported the demonstrations during the Film Liberté movement, are today prevented from working." So I'm sorry, this guy is the real deal. This is what it means to be devoted to cinema. So the film opens with a man, woman, and a child driving a car at night. It's very Iranian cinema, bunch of people in a car. They hit something, an animal. The kid says, Dad killed something. The car starts to break down and they drive to a garage where an Azerbaijani mechanic hears the sound of the man's prosthetic leg. He has one leg and a prosthetic leg, and he hears the sound and he thinks that he recognizes it as the sound of the prosthetic leg of a captor who had him and tortured him and his comrades some years before. So he follows the man home and kidnaps him, bent on vengeance. But his victim, the kidnapped man with one leg, says, "It's not me. It's not. I don't know. I don't know who this person is that you're talking about." So he decides, okay, I need to know that this is the guy I think it is. And the way he does that is he, in the back of the van, in a box, takes him to see his former comrades who were also imprisoned and tortured, to say to them, is this the guy? Now, we're going to play you the trailer, which obviously is not in the English language, just so you know this is what you're going to hear. It's a trailer, so it's disparate phrases. "I found peg leg. He brought peg leg. Bring water. Are you sure it's him? I need you. I have a doubt. Can you confirm it's him? I won't drop this until I know it's him." Here's a bit of the trailer.
پا قشنگه رو پیدا کردم.
چه پاگروزه آورده اینجا؟
آب بیاری.
مطمئنی خودشه؟
فقط میخوام کمکم کنی. افتادم تو شک. شما ببینین خودشه یا نه.
من یکی تو نفهمی خودشه یا نه دست بردار نیستم.
بریم بالا.
So we play that just to give you kind of, a little flavor of the film. So it begins as this kind of darkly absurdist fable in which this very ordinary man, who is clearly not a killer, traps a one-legged stranger in a box in the back of his van and then drives around picking up a misfit group of people, which include a photographer, a bride and groom in all their wedding finery, and an angry young man in a state of permanent rage who just wants to kill him because he's absolutely convinced that it is. Whereas when everybody else is going, I don't know whether that's the guy. And as with all of Jafar Panahi's work, and actually an awful lot of what's now called new wave Iranian cinema, I mean, it's got this kind of humanist, Italian neo-realist style to it. I mean, it feels very real. And it feels real even as the plot becomes apparently incredibly convoluted. I mean, as they pick up this kind of ragtag collection of people all looking in the box to go, is that the guy? So on the one hand, it is overtly political because it is about, this was our former tormentor. This was somebody who we think tortured us. And it is an evocation of a regime built on torture and terror. But it's also a film made in Iran in which the women in the film are not adhering to the legal dress code. So you know that even when they were making the film, they were breaking a whole bunch of rules that, that could have got them all arrested, but in which those women are every bit as powerful as the men in the drama. And I think one of the reasons that it works is because the plot snowballs slowly. It just starts off with him hearing the sound of this leg, and he's convinced that this is the guy that abused him. And then he kidnaps him without really thinking what he's doing. And then he doesn't know. And then he has to go and see people who go, what on earth are you doing bringing this guy to me in the back of a van? And because the ragtag group of people, these are good, decent people. When stuff starts happening, like their kidnapper's wife goes into labor, they end up helping despite the fact that she doesn't know that they've got her husband in the back of a van. And there are conversations about the ethics of torture. Look, just because they did this is not who we are. We don't do the same thing. But all those conversations, they don't seem polemical. They don't never seem to be, this is the director telling you what the message of the film is. They seem like exactly the kind of conversation that you would have in that situation. And the best thing is that the more the film goes on, the more it kind of doesn't matter whether this is the guy they think it is or whether it isn't. the ambiguity allows the drama to kind of seep in a way which is raising much more profound humanist questions. I mean, I thought it was, at times it was laugh out loud funny, at times it was really nerve-rattling. It's got a brilliant ending that will send you out into the foyer of the cinema wanting to have a discussion with whoever you were sitting next to or whoever you've just met. I mean, I think it's a masterpiece by a master filmmaker. And I will say this again, when people talk about people dedicating their lives to cinema, this is what dedicating your life to cinema looks like. When you literally cannot stop making films no matter what's thrown at you. And I think it's terrific.
And it's called It Was Just an Accident. Okay. Let us know what you think when you see it, correspondence@codermayo.com. Over on Patreon, we've been running a knockout poll on the greatest Christmas movie scenes of all time. So not Christmas movies, this is the greatest Christmas movie scene of all time.
Right.
The final is going to be on our live show, which we'll do Sunday afternoon. So we're down to the last 4, Mark, or actually, as it turns out, the last 7. So
really?
Well, I'll tell you. So these 3 are definitely through. 1, Gremlins. Billy's mum creeping through the house while Do You Hear What I Hear plays in the background as she's hunting the gremlins.
Okay.
2, Muppet Christmas Carol, the Thankful Heart bit. 3, It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey's run through Bedford Falls shouting Merry Christmas.
Oh.
And then it's a 3-way tie for the last semi-final spot. All these were on 10% in our poll, and so therefore we're going to decide which one gets through.
Okay.
Like Die Hard. John McCain crawling through the air ducts, lighter in hand, saying his famous line about making friends at the party. The Holdovers, the end scene, keep your head up, all right, you can do this.
Okay.
And National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Clark Griswold losing his mind at the end. So we have to decide between one of those. I mean, I would say it's between Die Hard and Holdovers.
So you and I have to decide this?
Yeah. Well, it says here, Simon and Mark discuss and decide. So this is effectively the coin cost between the 3 films that are joint.
Die Hard.
Okay, there you go. Sorted. It's the Die Hard scene. So that will be decided, and that gets the last spot, and then it'll be all discussed and voted on, I imagine, when we do our live show at the Prince Edward Theatre on Sunday, and then you'll get to hear the recording of that.
Can I just say that you were recently asked to go on a news program to talk for 7 minutes about whether or not Die Hard was a Christmas movie, and you said no, partly because 7 minutes.
Well, number is 1, 7 minutes. 2, it was 9 o'clock in the evening. No, thank you.
And 3,
and also, well, I was afraid that I was going to say yippee-ki-yay melon farmers at some stage, which would have been the end of the interview.
People will be watching it going, I saw that Simon Mayo on the news. He's got a mouth like a docker.
Exactly. There he is going on about how Mark is, volley of filth. Anyway, that's very good. So we'll see you all on Sunday for that. Now, it's the ads in a minute, Mark, but first it's time to highlight the comedy, as they say. With James L. Brooks being on the show, he would love this bit. It's the laughter lift. It's fantastic. James Brooks could turn this into a movie, The Laughter Lift, where the whole thing is the lift, it's going up, then it's going down. People get in and they get jokes. What do you think?
Simon Mayo.
Or it could be like the lift in Speed. Right, the opening sequence of Speed. Remember?
No.
When it starts very high and you just follow the lift all the way down.
And who's in the lift? Is it Dennis Hopper with the bomb?
Dennis Hopper is down at the bottom.
Oh, right, okay.
And you realise that things are not going well. Anyway, hey, Mark. Yes. Christmas soon. I can't wait. Although I've been warned by the good lady ceramicist there indoors that I am not to ruin Boxing Day with my incessant puns. And I just can't do that. I can't go cold turkey.
Hey!
I treated myself to some new trainers this week, Mark. I was trying them on when I said to the assistant, just too tight. She said, you're not doing it correctly, Simon Mayo. Try it with the tongue out. It's no good. It's still too tight. I said.
You did that joke.
I got thrown out of Foot Locker.
You did that joke.
And then. Anyway, so I went to the new artisan bakery after that, Mark.
Did you? Okay.
It's very fancy. It made me very sad when I saw their sourdough loaves on display in antique bird cages. Why did it make me sad? I hear you ask.
Why did it make you sad, Simon Mayo?
Because it was bred in captivity. There you go. You see, can that be improved on by our live audience on Sunday?
Please let the answer to that be yes.
Throw to Mark for a trail of the last bit. Mark says it was just an accident, which you've already
we've
done.
just done it. Was just an accident. We're going to do Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Jay Kelly.
Looking forward to that after this. Now here's an email from Mike. Dear Danny and presuming Ed. Concerning the recent discussion of films that are also autobiographical or semi-autobiographical in terms of their director's experience. There are many to varying degrees, but I can think of none greater than Bruce Robinson's Withnail and I. Mm-hmm. For those who may be unaware, Bruce Robinson based a lot of it on his relationship to his friend Viv McCarroll, who was the real-life inspiration for Withnail, whereas Robinson himself was the eponymous and I, or Marwood, as he's referred to in the script. They lived in Camden in the late 60s, having been drama students together, in such a degree of squalor that Robinson used to have to unscrew a light bulb and take it to another room if he wanted light, as there was only one working bulb. When Withnail rants about a young British actor working for a famous Italian director that he's just read about, that's a reference to Robinson appearing in Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. During this time, Robinson has stated he was subject to the unwanted amorous advances of the legendary director, and as such, he is a direct inspiration for the character of Uncle Monty in the film, even to the extent that things Zeffirelli allegedly said to Robinson are repeated verbatim in the film. Are you a stone or a sponge? Do you like to soak up new experiences? Robinson did indeed have a disastrous holiday in the Lake District, although that was not with Viv McCarroll, but another actor called Mickey Feast in real life. I won't go on further, as there is an abundance of material easily found elsewhere on this subject, and I've already gone on a bit. But I'm often surprised by people who know and love this film being unaware of just how much real-life experience of its writer and director went into it. That's from Mike.
I did a little film about Withnail and I, and we went to Uncle Monty's cottage, which still looks exactly the same, except for the fact that it's got a little picture of Richard E. Grant in the window. And then we went to the phone box that they go to make the call about, the agent and why he hasn't got the job. And it rained the whole time we were there, and it was absolutely, we had come on holiday by mistake.
Richard E. Grant, we wish him the best. Happy Christmas to you, Richard, and well done on getting all the voiceovers. We've got so many ads that are which are very welcome, of course, and the voice by Richard, because he has he has such a fruity.
He says that thing, does he? He says mince pies made with something like luxurious butter. And it's like,
and he just says it so much better than anyone else.
Think it's a mince pie, but now that he said made with luxurious butter, you think, oh, actually, I quite fancy that.
Right, let's do Five Guys at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
I know,
2.
but I fancy a burger.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I know you've been awaiting this.
Yes. What happened in Five Nights at Freddy's 1?
I'm so glad you asked.
Yes.
So this is the sequel to the 2023 slasher fantasy, which was based on the video game franchise created by Scott Cawthorne, who's an executive producer, did the script with Emma Tammy. So the setup originally is there's the night watchman in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is named after an animatronic bear, and the player in the game would be menaced by animatronic characters and traps. And then in the film, the animatronic characters were ghost children possessing the robot animals or something. Anyway, so now sequel, Josh Hutcherson, Elizabeth Lale Piper, Rubio, Matthew Lillard reprising their roles, Wayne Knight, McKenna Grace, other people joining the cast, alongside Skeet Ulrich in a cameo, which literally makes you go, sorry, who's that? Oh, all right then. And then when you finally figure it out, you go, I really like the Scream movies a lot more than I like this. And there's also a bit in it in which a car runs over an Elm Street sign. And you go, Yeah, fine. So this is apparently set. It's just after the first film, about which, I mean, the plot of the first film I just can't be bothered to remember. So Abby is now separated from, but attempting to reconnect with the animatronic spirit possessed friends that led to the events of. And then it turns out that there's more than one Freddy's. There's an original Freddy's, and also all the robotic animals. There's now a new breed of them. So there's 2 of everything and 3 of every plot strand. Here's a clip from the trailer.
So this is what it's like, being normal?
I think we've come pretty far, considering what we've been through.
How's Abby?
Some days she's good. Some days she misses her friends.
This story that you're gonna fix those animatronics, it's only giving her false hope.
Can any of you hear me?
Abby, help us. Come find us.
I always love it in the a plot description where you lose the will to live just explaining the story, because we kind of know what's coming.
So much plot and so little point to any of it. I mean, there isn't any point in trying to do a synopsis of this, because it's just like none of it makes any sense and none of it's interesting. And I saw this because it was just the one screening, and I was there with Kim Newman, my horror maven Kim Newman, my great friend. And Kim, I'm sure he won't mind me saying that, he said at the end of it, as we said, he said, "How can you mess this up? It's killer toy robots. How can you mess this up?" And the answer is so many ways. And every one of the ways of messing this up is explored in this just bum-numbingly dull, boring, world-building movie, which is like building, I mean, the Winnie the Poohniverse world is actually more interesting now than the Five Nights at Freddy's. So, as before, 15 for strong threat and horror, but neither of those things are true. There isn't any strong threat, and there's virtually no horror. I mean, points of it, I was struggling to stay awake. And this was in a day in which I'd seen 3 other films, at least one of which was quite hard going, but had kept me gripped all the way through. And this, you think, oh, it's killer toy robots, animatronic possessed, but just all this. And I'm speaking as somebody who thinks that magic and Dead of Night and things with talking toys are just inherently scary. I mean, I was also thinking, watching this Funhouse, there's a Tobe Hooper movie Funhouse, and I haven't thought about or seen Funhouse in a very long time. And whilst I was watching this, I thought, okay, maybe I should go back and watch Funhouse, because maybe it's an absolute masterpiece. So you get 2 sets of everything. So you get 2 sets of the locations and 2 versions of the creatures, and then the original location that nobody had talked about before. And then there's 3 intertwining narratives, at least one of which gets forgotten halfway through because they just couldn't be bothered. There's this newly menacing marionette. I think the marionette's new because I don't remember the marionette from before, but possibly was there before. I've just forgotten. And I'm at a loss to recall this stuff. And I only saw it yesterday. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. I saw it yesterday at the end of the day, and it's made no impact on my brain whatsoever. I mean, the whole raison d'etre of this franchise is dormant, apparently dead and destroyed big animatronic animals whose eyes suddenly light up, or dormant animatronic, apparently dead robotic animals that suddenly bash on the windscreen of your car and it goes bang when they do it. And then all this plot, so much plot. I mean, just so many plots. I don't care about any of these things. I don't believe in any of these people. The only thing that you've got going for you is big, apparently dead, reanimated, robotic animal with big teeth whose eyes light up and who bashes on the windscreen of the car. And I mean, there is, as I said, there is one particular cameo in which the camera creeps up behind this, creeps up, and then they turn around and you literally go, sorry, who that? Oh, is that who that is? And the other thing is, it doesn't help that before these 2 movies came out, Nick Cage, who I keep wanting to call Nick Cave, Nick Cage basically made Willy's Wonderland, which essentially is Five Nights at Freddy's, but in which he doesn't say anything. But that's a film in which he's a drifter. He winds up in this place. There's all the creatures, and he just beats them all up. And I mean, the trailer was better than the film, but at least it just consisted of Nick Cage, not Cave, beating up a bunch of big animals. I mean, and the worst, there's not one, not two, but three endings, all of which set up another film coming. So there's going to be more of this in, 18 months' time. And I'm going to have to go back and revisit this review to remind myself what happened in this film, only to discover that even the next day I couldn't remember because I couldn't be bothered.
Okay. Very good. Anyway, correspondence at Kermode.com once you've seen Five Nights at Freddy's 2, if indeed you can be bothered. But it doesn't matter because Mark also has Jay Kelly to review, so that will be nice. Yes. So after all the mental and physical exhaustion of 5 nights, here we go with something cozy and lovely, which Mark is obviously going to love.
So last week,
got Adam Sandler in it.
Well, I'm a fan of Adam Sandler. So, Adam Sandler, Punch Drunk Love, love it. So this is the new film by Noah Baumbach, who you did an interview with last week. American indie darling, made his name with The Squid and the Whale, from whence the band Noah and the Whale get their name. Greenberg, Francis R. While We're Young, Marriage Story. Also, of course, co-wrote Barbie with his partner Greta Gerwig, and you talked about Barbie in the interview. He said, will we see another one? Some of his films I've really liked. Others less so. And this is firmly in the less so category, despite being co-written by Emily Mortimer, of whom I'm a big fan, particularly Doll and M. This, I think, is a self-referential and, to my mind, smug drama about the perils of filmmaking and celebrity. So George Clooney is this super sexy movie star, Jay Kelly, which obviously is a stretch for him. And he's suffering a midlife crisis. He has a chance encounter with a guy who he used to room with when they were young actors, who at first seems friendly, but then accuses him of stealing his career, and he gets into a fight with him. His devoted agent, Ron, played by Adam Sandler, wants him to sign on to a movie, but he's refusing to do it, and he's letting his manager down. He also wants to spend time with his daughter, but she's not going to be able to do that because she's off to Europe. Here's a clip.
I wrapped this last one. I start the Lewis Brothers movie right here on the lots. I'll be around for the summer.
I'm going to Europe with Rio and Moses and some friends. I told you that.
Yeah, I thought that was in July.
No, it was always June. I'm leaving on Saturday for Paris, and we're making our way over to Tuscany.
Saturday? I mean, that's Saturday. It's too soon. Wait. I got 2 weeks off. We won't have had time to hang out. This is your last summer.
That's why I want to see my friends.
It'll be so lonely here without you.
No, it won't. You're never alone.
Really? I think I'm always alone. Thanks a lot. You are.
And that's the joke, because somebody's giving him something. So he dumps his work commitments and he heads off on a European vacation, nominally because he's going to go and get a tribute award, which he turned down, but now he's going to pick it up because he wants to go and spend time with his daughter. And then he's followed by this entourage of helpers / enablers, including Laura Dern, who is the publicist, I think she is. Anyway, en route to this thing, he goes on a journey. And Noah Baumbach talked about this a lot in your interview. And I don't know whether you heard, but whenever anyone starts talking about somebody goes on a journey, my teeth immediately start to grind. Anyway, so he goes on this journey and he spends some time on a train, and he meets and charms members of the devoted public. He also relives key moments from his life, which appear to him like visions. Like he'll walk in and suddenly a scene will play out with him apparently watching it. And he has a kind of, what's it all about, Jay Kelly, life thing amidst loads of sun-dappled scenery en route to wherever it is, Tuscany or wherever it is that they're going to. Now, look, there are loads of starry filmmakers and film stars making films about filmmaking, and the rigors of starriness aren't anything new at all. I mean, you've got Fellini's 8.5, you've got Spike Jonze's adaptation, Woody Allen's Stardust Memories, and Robert Altman's The Player, and all the best of them are ones that they're kind of quite scathing, and all the worst of them are ones that are basically backslapping. This is in the latter they must have dislocated their shoulders, slapping themselves on the back in the course of this film. I mean, it is a film that basically asks George Clooney to just do, George, you know the head wiggle and smiley thing? Do that. Just do that all the way through the film. No matter what's happening, just wiggle your head a bit and smile a little bit. And I think that George Clooney looks bored. I think even George Clooney, head wiggle, smiley smile, looks bored. But the film is saying, hey, you're spending time in the company of George Clooney with a bunch of really, really, people who really know about filming. I mean, yes, okay, we get to hear his manager and his publicist gripe about, it's like raising a kid and how they've basically become in loco parentis. But, anytime it looks like any actual self-examination is going to happen, he just wiggles his head and he does a smile. And then we're back in coffee advert territory, which you had mentioned before.
He does actually make an espresso in the course of the film.
And at the end of the film, we have the reel of George. Because, hey, you know what? I mean, you were saying, God, it must be difficult playing a character that's kind of close to you, but not close to you. And Noah Baumbach said, well, it's actually nothing like George Clooney. Yeah, it is. Sorry. It doesn't help that none of the characters ring true. I mean, I never believed for 1 minute that Laura Dern was a publicist or whatever it was that she was meant to be. The film also just keeps gazing out the window and going, look at the scenery. It's George Clooney. Look at the scenery. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Lovely scenery. And I'm thinking, I don't go to the movies for lovely scenery. I live in Cornwall. I'll just go outside if I want that. Considering the amount of talent, this is the list of people. Clooney, Sandler, and Dern, right? Jim Broadbent, Billy Crudup, Riley Keough, Patrick Wilson, Lenny Henry, Isla Fisher, Lars Eidinger, even Stacy Keach as the irascible dad. And the whole thing runs for 132 minutes. And boy, it felt, I've had severely delayed journeys on Avanti West Coast that seemed to last for shorter periods of time than this. And you remember the film of The Player, right? And then recently we had that TV series, The Studio, which I really, really liked. They've got celebrity cameos that are interesting because they're sort of about peeling away the mask and looking underneath it. And all this seems to be is just like Noah Baumbach saying, look at all these famous people I know. Look at it. Imagine what my life is like. And then here's the other thing about it. Netflix insisted that I saw this in the cinema, despite the fact that it's about to be on Netflix and that's where everyone's going to see it, okay? It had a cinematic release, but the cinematic release was scattershot at best. So in order to see the film, because they didn't do a national press show, because they're not members of the FDA, the Film Distributors Association, I had to schlep to Finsbury Park on a Wednesday afternoon to see a 4:10 screening of the film, because it was really important that I, as a critic, saw it in the cinema. And honestly, I think that backfired, because I think had I just been sitting on a sofa in my pajamas with a cup of coffee and just, watching this out of one eye, I might have thought, it's all right. It's all right. It's famous people in nice scenery. It's all right. But sitting there in the cinema, watching this grinding thing going on and on with this kind of catalogue of self-congratulation, I just think it made it worse. I mean, honestly, the perfect place to see this film, is not to see it. But the second best place to see it is on the television when you're doing something else. And every now and then you look at the screen and go, oh, I quite like them. Scenery's nice.
It's
rubbish. It's rubbish.
It's hugely disappointing, isn't it? And it's fine. George just is acting all the way through, just aware that he's acting, which might be unfair because that's what his life has become. He has become Jay Kelly, and so he is acting all the way through. But it didn't. It felt very. Smug is absolutely the correct word. So that is the end of take one. This has been a Sony Music Entertainment production, and this week's team was Jen, Eric, Josh, Heather, and Dom. The redactor was Paul Simon. And if you're not following the pod already, please do so wherever you get your podcast. Christmas Live is this Sunday. fane.co.uk/Kermode-Mayo. If you want to enter Simon and Mark's domain, email us at the normal address to win a very special prize indeed. Don't forget how great Patreon is. How great is Patreon, Mark, would you say?
Great. It's great. And it's great for fabulous videos of Sanjeev doing an Elvis impression by your jukebox.
Yes. And me on slappy bass.
Yeah, thanks for stealing my instrument. No, you're welcome.
Thank you. Mark, what is your movie of the week?
It was just an accident.
Thank you very much indeed for listening. Take Two has landed adjacent to this podcast, and hopefully we'll see you on Sunday.